story. Chapter 3. Izuocha, you've certainly reacquainted with Midoriya, haven't you? Most of Class 1A now sat in the common room of their dorms, unwinding after a long day. Though Izuku was late to come back, it looked like he'd stopped to speak to All Might about something. Uh, yeah, we were already best friends. And I can tell why. Good answer. Composure maintained. So it's just coincidence that he's on your phone's wallpaper. You flirt with him non-stop, and you ended up lying on top of him in today's heroics class. Composure lost. Damn you, Mina. Yes, it's like he said, it's just what we do. We're good friends, that's it. She knew that was less than believable, but she hoped it took some of the heat off her. Likely story. Anyway, he's pretty hot. I think I might ask him out. Ochako ceased all motor functions after swiveling to look at Mina, with the most intimidating look she could muster. What? She was pretty sure she heard some of the other girls laughing behind her, but her sole focus was on her pink friend right now. It's like you said, you're close friends. But that's it, right? So I think I might ask him out. She smiled at Ochako, who still maintained the murderous stare right back at her. Unless, of course, you told me you liked him. Then I guess I'd back off. Ooh, Mina, you bitch. It seemed true in her mind, but could she just admit that right here? But something about all her friends getting together and teasing her like this seemed super familiar. My heart's been feeling all stirred up. It's love. Huh. Hey, girls, have we had this conversation before? Suyu looked up at the ceiling, deep in thought. Not that I can remember, Hiro. Nor can I. Perhaps you're remembering something to do with Midoriya then. Pre-amnesia quirk. Before the quirk, to do with Deku. I remember saying that, then floating to the ceiling, then looking outside at. Oh, I'm in love with Deku. That explains a lot, she sighed, surrendering herself to these resurfaced emotions. Which Mina seemed to pick up on. Had this convo before, you say. Does that mean you've already told us you like him? Why is everyone so damn perceptive? Yeah, I think so. Mina excitedly grabbed her shoulders and shook her. Then you've got to tell him. No, I can't just. She cut herself off as the door to the dorms opened, with Deku entering from his talk with All Might. She leaned into Mina, lowering her voice. Say anything and you die. Izuku stepped back into the dorms with a sigh of relief. It had been a seriously long day, and weirder than any other day of his life. Except for maybe the day he got his quirk. Other than that, he was happy to be back and relax. And to be honest, he was already getting bored of this quirk being a nuisance. He'd already messed up the potential new start with Kachan. Let's be real, he'd never forgive him for lying to beat him in a drill. Not to mention his mentor had lost all memories of knowing him and raising him to be his successor. It was jarring, and he wished it would end soon. His classmates barely knew him anymore either, and as fun as Uraraka flirting with him was, he'd rather get back to being as close as they were. He walked over and slumped down into the seat at the side of the group of girls. Nearer to Kaminari and Kirishima playing on the dorm's switch, he traded a quick hello to each of them as he let some tension seep out of him and pulled out his phone. He idly browsed the hero news before getting a notification of a text. He paused on an article about the Pussycats' comeback and opened his messages. Promoted stories. You'll also like. After all. Fluke 11.4K 802. Will edit once I'm free. N. This is a work of fiction, and any similarity with other works is purely coincidental. Excuse grammatical errors and misspellings, Eng. Much needed love, Yandere Succubus Momo X Izu, 52.5K 834 after Wattpad. Had decided to delete this story out of nowhere, I and many reader were distraught. So I'm making a remake of the story from the ground up to compensate. Finished. 28.6K 508, tilde he save all of them just a smile plastered on his face before disappearing through the wind. Her prince from the underworld, half demon is. 0.26.3K 462 It's basically the same story as my Succubus Momo X Deku story. I know. Real original but hey, now you guys get a Deku from the other side of the tracks. Free. Oni Shots 150K3K This is a collections of free. X readers. Requests on this are now closed. Izuku's Harem Academia 192K 1.8 Qst. Read. Return of Mokuten discontinued 3.6K 45 This story is officially up for adoption. If anyone is interested, message me or comment on the story. Uraraka, you okay over there handsome? Less than 3. He looked up to see her smiling down at her phone, and he laughed as he typed out his reply. Deku, all good smiley face. He looked at her again and she was frowning at her phone screen. Uraraka, liar. I'm coming over there. Sad face. He smiled and locked his phone as she approached from the side, dropping in the seat next to him. So, what's up? He couldn't help but laugh at her, even when she barely knew him. She was so perceptive about him. Nothing really, it's okay. You know, if you're lying to me, I'll never speak to you again. She had such a devious smile, and it made his heart squeeze. Okay, fine. I guess I'm just worried about this quirk's effects. I just have all these memories with everyone and they're gone. She noticed the green-haired boy's crestfallen face, and it hurt her heart. She grabbed his hand and intertwined their fingers, sending him a genuine smile. I'm sure they'll come back eventually, and you're not alone in this anyway. We're right here with you. Thank you. It means a lot, Uraraka. What? No flirty retort. He chuckled at the brown-haired girl, deciding he'd put her out her misery. Well, we didn't actually flirt as much as you think before the quirk. I wanted to change some things about myself. But now I honestly just want it back the way it was. Uraraka started to laugh at him. She got where he was coming from. Who wouldn't want a fresh start? You were beautiful though. She went bright red and let go of his hand. I'm gonna go make some coffee. Izuku laughed internally. I guess some things haven't changed. Dash dot. Uraraka had gone back to sitting with the girls when she'd returned. He may have taken it a tad far with that last one. I'm just hoping she doesn't realize how sincere it was. So he chose to move with Kaminari and Kirishima instead. The two guys were still competing fiercely in Mario Kart, so he went to cheer them on. Eventually they finished their races. declaring Kaminari the winner, with Bakugo shouting something from the back about, "Your racing skills are as shitty as your hair," to Kirishima. Once they'd switched off the TV, they clambered back onto the sofa next to Izuku, and decided they'd start another investigation of his life. They went over his involvement in USJ, which Suyu overheard and thanked him for the shipwreck zone, and how he'd broken his legs jumping out at Shigaraki. They asked about his entrance exam, and were shocked when he said he got 0 villain points, getting in by, you guessed it, breaking his legs and an arm to save Uraraka. Once they'd put that together with the summer camp fiasco, they decided he had the pain tolerance of a god. And Izuku swore he'd heard Kirishima say the word manly at least 20 times. The redhead in question eventually left to go find Bakugo, leaving Izuku in a slightly awkward silence with his blonde friend. And after peeking at Kaminari's phone to see a wallpaper similar to his with Uraraka on it, instead showing Denki and Kyoka together in their shirts from the festival performance, he hatched a plan. Now, Izuku liked seeing his friends happy, it made him happy. And he'd known there was somewhat of a deeper connection between those two. With this new plan devised, it would either end in happiness, or he'd be outed as a complete liar. Worth it. Hey Kaminari. Izuku lowered his voice significantly, making his friend have to lean in slightly. What's up, dude? Did you give any thought to what I told you? Take the bait, Kaminari. Told me. I don't know what you mean, man can't remember you, remember. Izuku faked his reaction as best he could, exaggerating a slap to his forehead with a frustrated sigh. Ah, of course. Sorry, dude. Never mind then. There is no way in hell Kaminari isn't dying of curiosity. I mean, you could just tell me again. Yes. Oh, well, it was last week you confided in me about, you know. He leaned in even closer and lowered his voice to a whisper. You and Jiro. He knew Kaminari was smart to a degree. He had to be. He was in UA after all. But outside of the necessary academic knowledge, Kaminari was, for lack of a better word, stupid. Oh, and gullible. Oh my god, I did. Hook, line and sinker. Yeah, dude, you told me you'd confess soon. I guess you forgot about that too, huh? Kaminari looked shell-shocked. Izuku could practically hear the gears turning in his brain. Yeah, I did. He paused for another few seconds. You still think I should? Izuku smiled victoriously. It had gone perfectly to plan. Of course, I just want my friends to be happy. And you two would be great together. He watched the electric boy battle his emotions while sat firmly in the same seat, then he relaxed. And his regular boyish expression was swapped with one of determination. I'll do it. Nice dude. So how? Kaminari was no longer listening as he walked straight past Izuku, heading right towards Jiro. Wait, right now. He hopped off his seat to follow the man, and hopefully restrain him before he reached the girl in the kitchen. But as Izuku crossed the halfway mark of the common room, the door swung open, and his attention was pulled by an all too familiar voice. Mr. Deku. The little white-haired girl charged across the room and jumped into his arms. While startled, he returned the tight hug, noticing she was crying on his shoulder. Eri, what's wrong? Are you okay? She continued crying for a minute, before controlling herself enough to speak. Gee, they said everyone forgot you. Like you didn't exist. But you do exist. You do. He smiled while she buried her head in his shoulder. Of course I do, Eri. I'm not going anywhere. She was content to stay in his arms as he stood up. He was used to her being clingy anyway. He enjoyed it. Izawa came trudging in the door behind her, still looking as tired and disinterested as ever. She had a small quirk accident today. Izuku looked up at the teacher with worry, and back at the little girl. Don't worry, I stopped her instantly. Though I believe she managed to rewind herself ever so slightly. I think back to when she remembered you. Oh, that must have been scary, Eri. I'm so proud of you for being brave. She kept her firm grip around his shoulders, and he could feel her small fingers in the back of his hair. As soon as it happened, she became panicked, wondering why her memories of you came flooding back. I told her what happened and she wouldn't relax until she saw you here as proof. Izuku nodded at his teach and tapped Eri's back slightly, getting her attention. Hey Eri. She looked up at him with wide eyes glistening with tears. Shall we go sit down? The girls are over here if you'd like to join them. She nodded her head and he smiled warmly, taking her over to where the girls were and plopping her down beside them. He went to take a step towards Kaminari again, and save him, but he was stopped by a tug on his sleeve. With Eri on the other end, pleading for him to stay with those puppy dog eyes. And you'd have to be the worst person in the world to say no to that. She also requested to stay the night with you. And given how she was shortly after remembering you, I think it's in her best interests to grant that wish. Izuku nodded and looked at the little girl, who was still worried he'd say no. You'd like to stay with me, Eri? She nodded again. Great. We'll have a sleepover. How's that sound? She started smiling at him and it completely melted his heart. No matter how many times she smiles now, it will still never get old. That's fine with me, sensei. I'll look after her. Good. Let me know if there's any trouble. With that, the pro hero turned and left the dorms, leaving them to look after Eri. She turned and sat back down in Izuku's lap on the sofa, now browsing through the photo gallery on his phone as she liked to do. He idly watched her as she went through the pictures of him and All Might, then finding their pictures together. So you're really close with Eri, huh? Izuku looked over to Hagakure, who spoke on behalf of the girls in their group. He went to reply, but Eri cut him off. Deku is the best hero in the world. And he saved me. She said it so matter-of-factly and it made his heart squeeze. He gave her a pat on the head, and she smiled. Returning back to the photos. She opened a photo of Izuku and Uraraka stood shoulder to shoulder, smiling, with Eri on Izuku's shoulders. She leaned over and showed the girls the phone, who all, a weed, in reply. Handsome and good with kids, huh? Izuku felt himself blush and looked at Uraraka, who was smiling at him. I told you, you don't need to keep that up, you know. She waved him off anyway. Matt, it's funny to see your reactions. Eri looked up at the two of them questioningly, surprised by this new development. Another couple hours passed and the class ate, with Bakugo and Kirishima on food duty this time. That always meant a combination of tasty and spicy, though he at least dialed the spice down today to accommodate Eri. Afterwards they played some board games, before Izuku started to notice Eri dozing off next to him, resting her head on his arm. Well, I think it's best I take her to bed now. I might go too, it's been a tiring day. The green-haired boy took Eri in his arms and stood up to leave. Well, it was good to re-meet you, bro. Hiroshima fist pumped his friend with his spare hand. Thank you all, really. This day was trying, to say the least. I'm just glad you all put up with me. Iida waved him off with choppy arm gestures. Nonsense, Midoriya. We were your friends, and we still are. No amnesia quirk will change that. Yeah, even if you did try to act cool for the day. Izuku pretended to be hurt when he looked at Uraraka, who just laughed at him. I am cool, just in a nerdy, very few friends kinda way. Well, you have all of us, and that won't change. Even if Bakugo pretends he's not. TCH, don't lump me with you, ponytail. Izuku laughed silently to not disturb the girl in his arms, and waved to his friends, who all called various goodbyes out as he left. He took his place back in the fixed elevator and headed towards his floor, where he entered his room and later Eri on his bed, going to grab the air mattress from his closet. Deku, yes, Eri, can you sleep in the bed with me? He smiled and put the mattress back away, heading over towards the white-haired girl. Of course, everything okay? I want to tell you, but it's a secret. He frowned and thought for a moment. Well, how about I give you a secret so you can tell me yours, a trade? She paused then nodded, satisfied with the idea. Well, what do you want a secret about? What about Miss Uravity? Izuku stopped for a second, then relaxed. It was only Eri after all. Sure. What about her? Do you love her? He was, quite frankly, shocked that's the question she chose. Though she did always seem quite perceptive. I do, don't you? She smiled and nodded. Now, how about yours? I still have nightmares. About the bad man. I think he's going to get me. He could sympathize with her. No child should ever have to go through something like that. It's no surprise it affected her so greatly. Nightmares are nothing to be embarrassed about. Everyone gets them occasionally. Even you. Even me, but listen. The bad man is gone, forever. I'm here now, and I'll protect you. Okay, Eri nodded back in reply. It seemed to be enough for her. And he climbed into the bed alongside her, with her instantly snuggling in closer. He let out a content sigh and closed his eyes, letting the sleep overtake him. The next morning came sooner than Izuku had wished, but he'd slept great. A long day was finally over and done with, though he'd have to deal with more of it now. He noticed Eri was gone, likely taken herself downstairs after smelling food. So he stretched out, tensing his whole body, and got ready for the day. Heading downstairs, he caught the smell of what seemed like pancakes. They were a favorite of Eri's for breakfast, and no doubt Sato indulged her. Then again, who could say no? He made his way to the kitchen to find the little girl hovering around the student as he made more breakfast. Morning, Eri. Sleep well. She nodded happily and grabbed a plate from Sato, passing it to Izuku. He pointed at his chest and mouthed, "For me," and she nodded happily. Izuku took the plate to the table nearest to him and sat down, just opposite Uraraka. Morning, beautiful. Right as he said it, he heard panicked choking sounds, looking up to see Uraraka nearly losing her life to pancakes, while blushing furiously. What? He frowned at her, before laughing it off. Rough night, huh? Yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about you either. She effectively froze at this point, staring at him with a shocked expression. Mina came bounding over, clapping her hands excitedly. Finally. Oh, I'm so proud of you, Midori. What? Why? Wait, Midori. Isn't that a nickname she knew before? Yesterday. Oh shit. Wait, you guys remember me now, fully. Mina brushed past him, trying to flip the conversation again. What? Yeah, we remember you. And now we know your true feelings. Isn't that amazing, Ocha? Ochako looked around in blind panic, stood to from her seat rapidly, and left the dorms out the front door. I was hoping this shit wouldn't happen. A couple of the people in his vicinity gasped in shock. Midoriya, that language is unbecoming of a future hero. I suggest you refrain from speaking like that from now on. Izuku sighed, pulling the small piece of paper out his pocket. This is from Izawa sensei. For you all, I think you should read it. Momo frowned, then took the paper and began reading. Kaminari bounced like an excited kid behind him, chanting, "What does it say? What does it say?" We were all affected by an amnesia quirk the last 24 hours. Apart from Midoriya, we had all forgotten who he was for the whole day. Ah, bro. I'm so sorry. That sounded like it sucked. He waved off his red-haired friend. It wasn't that bad. I just had to reintroduce myself. I might have changed my personality a bit though. Me and Uraraka were joke flirting with each other all day yesterday. That's why I did it just now. Huh. Well, in any case, it seemed to bother her. Izuku nodded in agreement. I'll go talk to her. He stood up and left the dorms, leading outside to where Uraraka was stood, staring at the nearby tree line. Hey, I'm sorry about that. And no, it's okay. I overreacted and. He cut her off abruptly. Everyone was hit with a quirk yesterday. Nobody remembered me. I reintroduced myself and we joke flirted all day. I didn't realize it would revert so soon, sorry. Uraraka seemed to visibly relax, almost turning her worry into a chuckle. Ah, so it was a joke. No. She visibly tensed up again and faced him. No. I meant it all regardless of the quirk. You. Inside the common room, multiple of the girls and boys were secretly watching outside, seeing how the two were bashfully talking about something serious. What do you think they're saying out there? I don't know, but the tension is killing me. Eri approached from the side and looked out with the rest of them. Mr. Deku loves Miss Uravati. Mina looked at Eri with the biggest grin she could muster. Eri looked back at her confused. But it's a secret. You can't tell anyone. Oh, don't worry, Eri. Those two were the only ones that don't know that. Zero laughed alongside some of the other boys, before Todoroki spoke up, not anymore. What? Shoto pointed outside, to see the two now engaged in a passionate kiss. Everyone stood shocked for a moment, then multiple of the girls started squealing. The two turned and started to head back towards the dorms, hand in hand. A quick shout of, "Scatter!" by Sato had the classmates running back to their seats. Izuku and Ochako returned to the room, looking confused as everyone sat around sheepishly evading their looks. What's going on? Eri walked up to Izuku and looked at him, and then looked at Ochako. We watched you kiss Miss Uravati. And just like that, Izuku was wishing for another amnesia quirk. End. Where stories live. Discover now.